So I'm guessing there's probably a correlation between the nursery being closed today and me up here preaching. Draw what conclusion you wish. Today I stand before you a humble and a grateful person. I'm grateful for my amazing family, for the career I've had, for the home we get to live in, for the adventures I've had, for my church family, all of you. And I see that opportunity abounds. One person that I worked with for a number of years was prone to say, when things seemed like they were in chaos, we're fraught with opportunity. So here we stand, fraught with opportunity. Some of you know that I grew up in a family of 5 boys. I know some of you are thinking, your poor mother. But yet, she had an experience where one of my cousins, a troubled young woman, came to live with my mom and dad for a year while I was at college. And at the end of that, my mom said, yeah, a lot easier to take care of 5 boys. But I digress. So, Michael, I don't see, oh, here's the clicker. All right, so, surprise, I'm the only one not wearing a white shirt. Based on this picture, you might think that I was the black sheep of the family. And I chose a different path than others. Actually, I'm the second of 5, and I enjoyed being a little brother to my older brother, Jim. In fact, I think I was a much better little brother than I was an older brother to Rick, who was the 3rd out of 5, also known as the middle brother. So I want to stop here and say, who here has been an older brother or sister? Who here has been a younger brother or sister? We'll see how many parallels there are between my journey and your journey. All right, so next up is a picture of Rick, that I think this was Rick and me. This was taken the first day of a school year. Now, Rick is on the right, and he seems to be quite proud of his new book bag, while I, on the other hand, was proud of my little pen and pencil holder hanging off the side of my belt. Back when that was important. As it turns out, Rick marched to his own drumbeat and referred to himself as the purple cow of the family because black sheep didn't do him justice in his mind. Rick was a curious child that could spend time sitting on a curb, watching and sometimes eating ants and learning their patterns. Yeah, seriously, he really did. Rick found his passion in his early 20s. His passion was Indian classical music. He learned to play the sitar, the tampura. The tampura is a 4-stringed instrument that sort of is a drone sound in the background. That's the mesmerizing harmonic drone. He learned to play the tabla drums, and he sang vocals. He spent his professional life studying under gurus and performing and teaching mainly in the U.S. and in India, and actually has created a pretty profound reputation for himself. Rick and I were the first 2 brothers to leave New York, where we grew up on Long Island. I went to Oregon State. Rick went to the State University in New York in Buffalo, but after a year, he hopped on the Green Tortoise. Who knows what the Green Tortoise is? Some would think of it as a hippie bus. Half of it was seats, the other half was mattresses, and he rode this across the country. He was seen as the purple cow by anybody who thought somebody should get on the Green Tortoise and do that. The last photo. So that's Rick and me probably some 50 years ago. This picture was taken 4 years ago when I last visited Rick in person over in Hawaii, where he makes his home. He sort of looks like an Indian classical music guy, doesn't he? And he intentionally put that fern in front of his head as part of his sense of humor. I share all this because Rick's recent email exchanges with me are the inspiration for my comments this morning. Rick and I have been discussing theology, which is kind of interesting. It's something we've done on a limited basis over the years, but these recent conversations have gotten deeper. Rick recently lost 2 people very close to him. One he referred to as a benefactor that helped support his work in teaching Indian classical music. And he's now 72 years old, so he's at a place where he's confronting his own mortality and the end of life and thinking even more deeply about this. He's been a pretty spiritual guy all along. He and I followed different paths on our faith journey. Rick and I both went to Catholic grade school, hence that photo of us wearing white shirts and ties. We both left the church after high school. Rick went on to explore Eastern religions such as Buddhism and Hinduism, concurrent with his music career. I joined a Lutheran church, and that was concurrent with me beginning a career in a Catholic hospital. So we had these sort of different pathways. As we talked recently, we learned that we are aligned in a lot of Christ's teachings, and particularly the one where Christ is asked, what are the greatest commandments? And he responds, the two greatest commandments are, love God with your whole heart and love your neighbor. We also know that there are similar teachings in many major religions, particularly those that Rick studied. In today's lessons, we are instructed to have faith, as Abraham did, as the psalmist did in the psalm that we didn't read today, and as the leader of the synagogue that came to Christ asking for him to come resurrect his daughter. I believe the consequence of this faith are the fruits of the Spirit that, as I recall, that you were up here singing the hippopotamus thing and doing all that dance a few weeks ago. To remind you, the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And the part you didn't sing was at the end of this, it says, and against those, there is no law against those. There is no law against those. Sometimes that strikes me. Today's gospel reading begins as Jesus was walking along. He saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax booth or tax station. And he said to him, follow me. And he got up and he followed him. Rick was called to music, and he followed. I was called to leadership in healthcare, leadership in the church, leadership in a bunch of things. Each path led us down a different spiritual journey into different spiritual places. Well, this all began to resonate me in these recent conversations with Rick. He lives a minimalist lifestyle, sharing his gifts, the fruits of the Spirit, with those around him. And as he says, and this is a quote, I have hope against hope, which was also in today's epistle reading. He's confident that love will overcome hate, that the world will continue to thrive because love is stronger than hate, because each person and humanity carries Christ in them and is fully capable of love. Each person, all of us, collectively too. The late Ernie Gelton, who was a member of this congregation and was a retired pastor, he led a men's study group on Friday mornings for a number of years. And he started that group by introducing us to a passage out of Colossians chapter 1 that says, where Paul writes, I became it, and that is the church, I became its servant according to God's commission that was given to me for you, to make the word of God fully known, the mystery that has been hidden throughout the ages and generations, but has now been revealed to his saints. To them God chose to make known how great among the Gentiles are the riches of the glory of this mystery, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Christ in you. For me, that was a bit of a revelation because I'd always thought of God as outside of me. This notion that Christ in me was new. But Paul goes on, he repeats this in multiple letters. In Galatians chapter 2, he says, I've been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Also in 2 Corinthians, examine yourselves to see whether you are in the faith. Test yourselves. Do you not realize that Christ Jesus is in you? Unless, of course, you fail a test. He actually wrote that. Again in Romans, but if Christ is in you, then even though your body is subject to death because of sin, the Spirit gives life because of righteousness. And then in the gospel reading from May 10th, in just a little while the world will no longer see me, but you're going to see me because I am alive and you are about to come alive. At that moment, you will know absolutely that I am in my Father, and you're in me, and I'm in you. Didn't know this was repeated throughout a lot of the Bible. Last Sunday, Pastor Dan preached, and he made reference to Khalil Gibran's poem, and he read this. It says, "My aid in understanding the meaning of hidden truth. I found this relevant and coincidental since it was Rick who first introduced me to Khalil by way of the book, The Prophet." Seems pretty clear to me that both these readings and my Purple Cow brother, that Christ is in us, each of us, individually and collectively. We have the ability to share God's love and grace in this world because that love is in us. We each have the gifts of the Spirit because of this love, because of God's grace. In our church life, we worship together, we serve together, we mourn together, we share resources together, we celebrate together. And Pastor Brenda's words recently, we murmur together. In a few weeks, we'll hold our annual meeting and review our work this past year in our annual report, and we're going to act on plans for the coming year. All of this is an act of faith, a celebration of the ways we have and we will share God's love in this world. Back to Rick. He and I have had different faith journeys, and yet these journeys seem to meet back together. He was called to love as Christ taught us through his musical journey. My journey involved healthcare administration and church leadership roles, and yet here we are together, understanding that we are loved and we share love. It is our calling. Rick has adopted the use of the word namaste. It's a Sanskrit word. The origin of it can be found in ancient India over 2,000 years ago. Its meaning, the divine in me bows to the divine in you, or I bow to the divinity in you. As I reflect on our Good Shepherd community, it seems to me that we are sharing God's love with each other, with our community, and with the world. And as I love my Purple Cow brother, I also love you. So I say to you now, namaste.